Herbs can add flavor and aroma to dishes that starts you on a journey of gastronomy before you even consume the food. Not only does it add flavor, but nutrition. If we can incorporate medicinal herbs into the food we eat, we can help our body get what it needs to be healthy. Hi, I'm Mary Bourne, traditional naturopath, and I love sharing natural remedies with people for better health. This is the month of June, and I have chosen this month to talk about herbs from my garden. And here with me today is my good friend and neighbor, Deb.
Hello.
And in the recorded version of this class, I have put a little snippet of where the herbs were grown in my garden and me picking them, and so you will enjoy that part of it if you come back to the recorded version, which is also on YouTube. So there are so many herbs in this category, and this could be an all-day class, but I've chosen to talk about a few of them that are very familiar, maybe one that is not so familiar, and give you a different slant on them. A lot of you have used herbs in culinary dishes and don't understand that you are also adding good nutrition as you do it. So the first herb I want to talk about is juniper. It's a kind of a picky bush, and it has these little gray-green balls on them. You can see the little balls, and if you squeeze it, you can actually release that heavy juniper smell to it. Deb's grabbing them.
That smells good.
It does. It kind of, like I say, reminds me of Christmas, but it's a very beneficial herb. Those of you who drink gin, this is the flavor, the flavoring for gin. And I wrote extensively about the juniper in my online newsletter. So it kind of looks like this, where you can go to the website bornforhealth.com and click on the link newsletter, and it will come up with my discussion from yesterday about juniper and its benefits, and also some recipes and uses for it. So I encourage you to check that out. I made a tea of juniper yesterday, and from that tea I could have made a gargle. It's a very beneficial gargle. You can add a little honey to it, but if your throat is a little sore or whatever, you can gargle and clear it up. It's very antiseptic. But
Do you use the balls or the leaves?
I took the whole
this
branch.
whole sprig.
Yeah, so you get it from the leaves and the little balls. So you don't really have to fuss over it, picking off all the little balls. You can make the tea that way, then you strain it off. But I made a little cream that I want to share. This is one I made up for Deb. Now, I'm not really good at making my own creams. I have a hard time blending water and oil and making a cream out of it. But it's just a very nice cream. You don't need a lot of it. And it's great for arthritis. It has anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties. And it disappears into the skin and makes it feel lush. So this is my present to you for coming and helping me today. So I hope that you look up the information I put out on juniper. It's great for those heels that get all kind of when you wear sandals for a long, and knees and elbows. And so those are very rough spots. You can smooth them out and it feels marvelous. But also, like I have a little thing going on with my knuckle that sometimes happens. And I've been putting it on that, and it calms it right down and soothes it. Now I can add other essential oils to this cream and making it dedicated to different things. So like if I had a burn or something, I could add a little lavender to it and and rub it into the burn and get rid of the burn. So it's a great base.
And it does have a nice fresh smell too.
Yes, it does. And I always add a little silver into the lotions and creams that I make because that keeps away bacteria. Because if you dip your finger into it, you may be adding microbes to the cream. I usually take a stick and do it, but because sometimes you don't, hi Kirk, you might want to put a little silver in the recipe for making your own lotions and creams to keep it microbial free. Now the next herb I want to talk about, which is totally popular, is sage. Now I have a sister-in-law who hates the smell of it, but she's the only one that I've come across that does not like sage. It's a very distinctive smell. It has the very fuzzy and gray-green leaves. In the summer, a purple spike comes up from it as beautiful lavender color. And the sage is a very useful plant. It's great for rubs and marinades, stuffings. You know, turkey dressing wouldn't be the same without sage. So I use it quite a bit. In the spring, you want to cut the plant down. It's a very woody plant, so if you cut it down to 6 to 8 inches, then you'll get lots of beautiful green growth from it. In a couple of years of growing in that, you can actually split it. I split it and gave some to Kim because her husband Mark loves sage. So, so now they have it growing in their garden. So it's kind of a friendly plant because you can share it with other people, and that and makes a great culinary addition. So the next herb, sage has a very close relationship to rosemary. It has some of the same constituents as rosemary, and we all know and love rosemary and the smell of rosemary. There have been some scientific studies that if you have a sprig of rosemary and you're doing some studying for tests and you pick that, your retention will be greater. So if you have something that you're trying to remember in that, there really is, rosemary for remembrance. It really does help. There's been some scientific studies to prove it. On my website, I have something called Herb Encyclopedia, and you can download these sheets and print them off or just look at them. And there's a whole thing about sage, there's a thing about rosemary and junipers, and so you can look them up, and if you'd like to know more about the research, it's listed at the bottom of the page. Now, the thing about rosemary, because there is a constituent known as thujone in it, it isn't recommended for people who have epilepsy. That sometimes can trigger a seizure. But here's the interesting thing. It calms the nervous system. So if you use rosemary and sage in dressings and in rubs for meat, you are adding not only aroma, you're adding flavor, you're adding constituents that are high in nutrition. And every time we bump up our nutritional intake, it aids to our ability to stay healthy. And so scientists have identified that sage has this volatile oil and that it's strongly antiseptic. And I think that's one of the reasons that these, like sage, were used to preserve meats in that. When times were before we had refrigeration, they would pound this into the raw meat and then they would sun dry it, and that would be along with berries, and this would be something that they could eat in the winter time when there wasn't much food around. And the berries were good because you don't see berries in snow in winter and that. So it was a way for them to get better nutrition in it. Now, this same oil, thujone, has estrogenic effects. And so it isn't recommended toward the end of pregnancy because it can cause the uterus contract and you may miscarry. So a small amounts in food is fine, but you wouldn't want to be taking rosemary capsules during pregnancy. It's not recommended. However, it is what they call a phytoestrogen, and so it can attach itself to the receptor sites, the estrogen receptor sites, and prevent bad estrogen from getting in there. Now, the bad estrogen is what contributes to estrogenic cancers, and so it's a very valuable herb to be using, and a little bit goes a long way. And I have also had friends who have used the sage as a compress along with comfrey when the breasts are swollen and inflamed, and it can reduce inflammation. It can kill any infection that's going on because of its antiseptic qualities. Now, here's another interesting thing about sage. Doctors in northern England have found sage suppresses the enzyme ACHE. This is believed to contribute to memory loss, thus adding to the sage equals, wise old person. That's me. All kidding aside, the ACHE enzyme is a factor in Alzheimer's. It seems sage can interrupt the breakdown of acetylcholine, and that's a really good thing. So use sage. If you don't want to use it, just take a sprig and smell it and make a potpourri with it. That makes a nice clean potpourri. Adding your juniper, rosemary, and sage together, giving a little pound with bashing with the pestle, and you can make the house smell good, and you emit these aromas that actually are beneficial as well. Now, the next herb I'm going to talk, I started talking about rosemary, but I didn't finish. So it is great for memory. There have been colleagues of mine who have worked with people who have alopecia, and they make up a lotion with rosemary oil. So they use the essential oil of rosemary along with frankincense in a coconut-based shampoo, and that stimulates the scalp, and they've been able to get hair growing again when people have not used it for long periods of time. So I like to use it to just support hair health. In my mid-70s, that one of the things that women complain about is hair loss, and it has helped to keep mine healthy, and I love the smell of it. So it can be very good. Now, my lavender is just starting to come in, but this is a bloom of lavender. Smells divine, and I love using lavender in so many things, but it's one of my favorite essential oils, and I've talked about it before, that I'll take the lavender and use it direct. So if I burn myself in the kitchen, I have lavender right in the kitchen, and I'll drop some on there and rub it and rub it and rub it. And when I'm rubbing it, you're moving bruised or damaged tissue out of the tissue spaces. Now, when there's heat and inflammation, think of a fire. The house is on fire, and the opposing houses are going to get some of that heat damage or smoke damage. And so when you're rubbing, you're actually moving that out, letting the circulation grab onto the bad and injured cells and moving it out. A blister forms due to congestion. I have never gotten a blister since I've known this process of rubbing. When the heat comes back, add a little more lavender, rub again. You usually only have to do it a couple of times. And how long does that take? And how long does it take to recover from a burn that would give you a blister. It may take weeks. And so it's so much easier to just handle things right away instead of waiting. I've had people, they run it under a faucet of cold water, they put butter on it. Oh. Lavender is your solution. Now, a great sunburn lotion is aloe vera gel. We add an ounce of aloe vera gel and 10 drops of lavender oil, and that makes a great sunburn lotion. But sometimes somebody is really, they are not mindful of how hot that sun is, and they come out and their shoulders and nose are really, really burned. Now, this kind of injured tissue is what contributes to skin cancer. So you want to take care of it as soon as possible. And so maybe you can't touch it. Maybe it's so hot, so sore. So really a good cooling spray is to take witch hazel in a small bottle and add, so for every ounce, remember the 10 drops of lavender. Shake it up and spray it on the sunburn. And then when that cools down, then you can get in there and you can rub it. And the sunburn goes away, the heat from it will go away within hours. Now, if the heat comes back, you just repeat the process. And it's a wonderful solution during the summer to have something like this on hand. Now, if you're liking what I'm saying, please send me some hearts or emojis. I appreciate those, and Facebook will help me spread the word, so to speak, if I get enough of those. So I appreciate any comments or interesting little segments that you can add to the program. I also post these classes on YouTube, so if your friends or whatever don't like Facebook, you can watch it on YouTube. And I will be happy to send you a link for that. You can send me an email, drmary@bornforhealth.com, and I will send you a link for the YouTube video that you can pass on to your friends. So these herbal additions to your food is a great way to keep your family healthy. We think of all the average vegetables when making soup, but thinking outside the box with herbs from the garden saves you money, it adds flavor, and it helps with better nutrition. So now I want to talk to you about purple basil. Now everybody likes the green basil, but the reason I chose purple is that purple is one of the colors that we should add more of to our diet. It's specifically great for the eyes, the liver. It smells and tastes the same, but when you add the color purple, it just bumps up interest that much more. It can be put in a mortar and pestle, and you can pound it, add some garlic, and a little bit of olive oil, and perhaps some pine nuts, and you've got yourself a great dip, and you're adding nutrition to your diet. So olive oil, we know the benefits of olive oil, and the whole room smells of basil.
It smells so good.
So you can have a wonderful dip just in seconds, basically. So that base is great for like mac and cheese. You can put it in mac and cheese. I've made it as a base for pizza. There's lots of different ways that you can use that besides a dip. So it tastes great. It's simple to do. People can grow these in the wintertime on their windowsill. I mean, I have seen people grow such herbs like this in a sunny window. I have a hard time with rosemary. For some reason, it dies out.
Yeah, it's woody, and it's hard.
It is hard to grow. But basil is very easy to grow on a windowsill, and you can get it in a lot of different flavors. You can get the hotter versions. One of the things I want to throw in, this time of the year, my chives are in bloom. And I don't know if you have chives, but if you pick off one little bloom, these are multiple flowers. So you pick off one little bloom and you've got these delicate little lavender purple flowers that smell and taste wonderful. I was sharing with Deb that I love to add them to salads. We put them in egg dishes, quiche, those type of things at the very end. You don't really want to cook with them because they're very delicate, and they really add interest. And what Deb was saying is that she's going to pull apart a bunch, put it in a little dish that people can sprinkle on their own. So in the summertime, it just adds fun. It gives a way in to talk about the nutrition of herbs and the benefits of them. And you can go on the internet and look at the high quality of nutrition chives gives you. And I use them. Like in the very spring, I'm out there pushing the snow away, looking for my chives. So
is it good for immunities too?
Pardon me?
Is it good for immunity?
It is good for the immune system, absolutely, because it's high in A and C. So it's fun. Kids love them. My two granddaughters, that was one of the things that they loved to do was eat chives and mint from the garden. And I would always say, eat the chives first and then the mint. Because,
good plan.
And they did it the other way around, they'd go, Grandma! So please, next week we're going to talk about some more herbs from the garden, some surprise things, some gifts from God, so to speak, which a lot of people call weeds, but I want to show you some things that will benefit you. We'll talk about some things that can help with bites and stings. So during this month, we're really discussing some answers and solutions to some of the summertime concerns that people deal with, and it's nice to have them in preparation. So please join me, Dr. Mary's at Health to Home on Tuesdays, 10:30, and share this information with others. If you want to contact me regarding a personal issue, it's Dr. Mary at bornforhealth.com, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you have. So here are some action steps. Number 1, grow some herbs, even if it's just on your windowsill. Add some herbs to your recipes and increase the nutritional value and density of whatever you're preparing. And think herbs first before drugs. They're safer on the whole. They're better for you. They add nutrition. They're more balanced. Keep focusing on gratitude. Be thankful for people and gifts of nature, the flowers, and all the joy around you. Thank you for viewing today. Thank you, Deb, for coming and joining me. And please share these classes with others so that everybody can have more hope. This is Dr. Mary for the Health of It. Thank you.